This is One-on-One. Dr. Ravit Barkama is the Executive Director, Institute for Clinical Research, Holy Name Medical Center. How are you, Doctor?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Important stuff going on at your place. Describe, first of all, what is a clinical trial?
So basically, a clinical trial is a way that we assess the safety and the effectiveness of drugs and devices. In many cases, new drugs and devices that aren't yet approved for commercial use by the FDA.
And the most important ones going on up at your place are?
We have a lot of important ones.
Just name two biggies. Because the one, I'll tell you the ones that caught my eye. The influenza drug study is? I mean, that's a big one because I'm thinking about the whole. I'm thinking how many people, influenza, right?
Yeah.
What is that study?
So we have a drug called nitazoxanide that we're actually assessing. The study is sponsored by the Department of Defense, actually. And we're looking to find better drugs for influenza and ones that the influenza virus doesn't actually find ways to overcome.
Because sometimes don't we resist? Aren't some, help me on that, I'm confused sometimes. Some of the drugs, the resistance, no?
Right. And we're trying to find drugs that have less resistance or no resistance at all. So for example, nitazoxanide, it's an antiviral drug. We're comparing it to a drug that is commercial, which is called Tamiflu. And actually the study has 4 arms. So in one arm, the patients will get nitazoxanide. The other one, they'll get nitazoxanide and Tamiflu. The other one, Tamiflu alone or placebo.
Wow.
So this
what do you mean arms? 4 arms?
That's a great point.
I was like, what arms?
Yeah, I'm using the sort of the clinical research jargon. So basically, we are looking at randomized control studies as the basis for evidence-based medicine. We don't just practice medicine the way we want. We practice based on evidence or clinical evidence that we have. So randomized controlled studies are the best way to understand what is better than what we have or what is better compared to not doing anything at all. And what that means is randomized is actually, we don't decide what the patient gets. It's like flipping a coin. We know what the possibilities are. They can be between 2 to 4 or 5 possibilities in a study, but we sort of flip a coin to see where the patient goes. And in many cases, we're blinded. We don't actually know what treatment the patient is getting.
And that's important not to know that.
Right, because you're biased if you know. So for example, if there's a treatment that a doctor wants to give the patient and it's a sicker patient, the doctor might tend to give that treatment to the patient. But then in the study group with the investigational device or drug, you're going to have the sicker patients. You don't want that. You want to have equal groups to be able to compare the effectiveness and the safety.
Wow.
So basically, so randomized controlled, we randomize them, and controlled means that we compare them. So we either compare them to a standard treatment or to another drug, or to nothing, actually.
To placebo?
To nothing or to placebo, right. So
can placebo, I ask you about another one which interests me? The coronary disease study. What is that and why is that so groundbreaking? So
basically, we were discussing a bit more about the drugs and the devices, but also we have to assess diagnostic devices.
Sure.
So today when a patient has slight shortness of breath, sort of symptoms that can sort of show that there might be some coronary issues, but not a heart attack, not a full-blown acute coronary syndrome, the doctor might send them for a nuclear stress test to assess the function of the heart. The problem with the nuclear stress test, not only that it's minimally invasive, you have to get an injection of the nuclear element, have some radiation and so forth. The problem is that there's a lot of false positive and false negative. So false positive meaning that the test could show that the patient has coronary disease, but the patient really does not, or false negative, that it shows that the patient does not have disease, but the patient does.
So you're looking for more accurate information.
So we're looking for more accurate information or additional tests to confirm or to show that what we've diagnosed and what is standard today, the nuclear stress test is standard, we're trying to find things that can add to that.
Fascinating. So let me ask you, does that device that you brought in have anything to do with this?
Yeah, so
what is that?
This is small, this is cute. What this actually does, this This has been developed by a company called Cardiovascular, an American company. And it's based on sensing the acoustic sounds that we get from our coronary vessels. So basically, in coronary vessels or heart vessels that are normal, that are intact,
sure,
the flow of the blood is straight. There's nothing that bothers the flow, so it's basically sort of like in straight lines.
Yep.
As opposed to when you have narrowing of the coronary vessels, which are obviously sick vessels, the blood flow will be more messy. And when it's more messy, it also creates sounds.
Hold on, is that listening to? I'm sorry for interrupting, Doctor.
Yes, this actually, this is like a computerized stethoscope in a way.
A computerized stethoscope listening to my heart.
Right, and sensing the sound. So turbulent flow, which is pathological flow, could in the future with this device say, hey, we have a problem there. So even if you have a stress test that shows that everything's okay, this might say, sorry, there's a problem here.
So not invasive.
Correct.
You're
this
not
is totally
shooting
not invasive.
No nuclear, what? So
no nuclear elements. This is simple, cheap, and a great way to possibly be instead of a nuclear stress test in the future, or maybe as an adjunct to the stress test.
How quickly is this science changing?
It's changing very quickly, but for every device like this, or drugs, which even take longer, from the moment that they're developed, there's the initial molecule, till the time it gets to a phase where it's commercial, it can easily take 10 years. When a lot of that time is actually the clinical trials. There are a lot of phases.
And the funding for the trials come from?
Many times the sponsors, those that developed, but it's a very highly regulated field. So the FDA has to approve it.
Food and Drug Administration.
Right. The Food and Drug Administration has to approve these studies and has to say, yeah, we're okay that you test these devices and drugs on humans in the U.S. They're also approved by independent review boards or institutional review boards that are actually ethical committees that say it is ethical to do this kind of assessment on humans. And beyond that, there's a lot of auditing, monitoring, inspections.
I have to ask you this before I let you out of here, because I know there are many other clinical studies going on at your place at Holy Name. But I want to try this. What caused you to want to go into this incredibly dynamic, fascinating, and important field? What caused you?
The answer's in the question. It's dynamic, it's fascinating, it's the forefront of medicine. And beyond all that, we're enhancing patient care by providing patients with drugs and devices that they wouldn't be able to get unless it was in the research setup, because they're not available commercially yet.
So patient care, improving patient care, that is what is driving you.
Totally, totally. Not just me, the whole institution, from top administration that are committed and very invested in this project and other quality projects, through myself, my team, and yeah, we're definitely there for the patients.
It's so interesting. People who hear about clinical trials, they sometimes lose sight of the fact that folks like yourself are in it for that reason. So I want to thank you, Dr. Ravit Barkama, who is the Executive Director of the Institute for Clinical Research up at Holy Name. I want to thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. You explained it very well.
Thank you very much.
Stay with us. This is One on One. We'll be right back right after this. Thank you.
One on One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One on One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Russell Berry Foundation, Caldwell College, the Fidelco Group, Fedway Associates, New Jersey Sharing Network, Kessler Foundation, and by the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, founded by the Jewish community. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One on One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.